Oh shit!
What's up, Internet? This is Theo Acworth with Method Mag, and I'm going to be taking you through a selection of my photographs from last year's edition of the Audi Nines. Now, this year's event was supposed to have happened a couple of weeks ago, but due to the global situation with COVID-19, it was unsurprisingly cancelled, along with everything else on Earth. But we thought we'd take a look back at last year's event and give you a bit more insight into the whole thing. So if you fancy seeing and hearing about this insane setup from a method perspective, then stick around for the next 10 minutes or so while I talk about it. This first image is of Sebe de Buck. Now, this kicker is called the launch pad. I think you can guess why. I'd never seen a jump like it. I don't think anyone had seen a jump like it. This thing is 2 meters wide. 2 meters. That's not very wide. To be honest, I was just looking forward to seeing someone straight air it, and Sebe did 1080s off it. So yeah, getting to see this thing torn to pieces was definitely a highlight for me. And this is easily one of my favourite photographs from the event, so I thought I'd start with it. So this is a wider perspective on the setup in Sölden, and as you can see, it's pretty mind-blowing. I'd never seen a park of this scale before and built with this level of precision. Hats off to the guys at Schneestern for making this happen. And on a less exciting note, you can see my car down there in the car park. This is Yuri Acaba, really sick Japanese rider. And you couldn't really shoot the launch pad from this perspective because the riders would just get lost in the quarter pipes in the back. But when they were hitting the left kicker, which he is, you could just slot them really nicely in this nice little bit of clean space. And I really like this photograph. It's, nice lines and shapes and stuff. And I told myself I wasn't really going to shoot too much kind of classic action because there were so many other photographers there, but when you've got a setup of this scale and riders are throwing down on it, it's kind of hard to resist. This is the ladies setup in Obergurgl, amazing name, about 20 minutes up the road from Sölden. And on the first day I came out of the gondola and this is what I saw: skis, tourists, an umbrella bar, and some of the best riders in the world sessioning a jump. And I really like this kind of photograph where there's a lot happening. There's stuff everywhere, and it's, this is how it was. So a lot of these people were watching the session for obvious reasons. And about an hour later, the lifts started to close. But none of the people were really going anywhere. So Nico Zacek, the event founder, had to come down and really politely told them all to fuck off, which they eventually did. And he used much nicer language than I just did. He's the nicest man ever. This is Nick van der Velden, really nice Dutch kid, really good snowboarder. And I think he told me that a teammate of his had given him this haircut. Which makes sense really, because it's not totally straight, but it is totally rad, and he totally pulls it off. So, big ups, Nick. This was kind of crazy to stand in, this sort of snow corridor. These walls are as high as buildings. And this little area is basically just used as a cupboard for camera bags and skis and other bits and bobs. And I thought that was quite funny. This is Anna Gasser doing a black one or switchback one or something stylish, I don't know. And this was actually a sunset session. And about 5 minutes after I took this shot, the entire setup was in the shade. And I was kind of hoping for an epic, colourful, classic sunset, but we're in a valley. So sunsets here work a little differently. The sky's completely blue. But it's still nice. I still like it. And Anna's style is awesome. Anna is awesome. And she's sassy too, in case you didn't know. Back over to Sölden. I really enjoyed shooting the setup itself. You could isolate bits of it in quite abstract sort of ways, and I just really like lines and shadows and things, and this doesn't look like any kind of setup I've ever seen on a mountain before, so it was quite fun just shooting it for its sake. As I said earlier, this launchpad kicker was insane. I would have been happy just to see someone straight air it. And that's Terje Harkinson doing a method. It doesn't get much sicker than that, really. I was quite lucky to get this shot. I was still strapped in. I just slipped down a bit to try and figure out an angle on it. And I had my camera in my hand and I just saw someone drop. And, quickly pulled it up and, got this. And I don't think he did any more after this. So I was kind of lucky to get that shot. And if this was the only action shot I'd come away with from the entire week, I would have been pretty happy with that. We also shot this frontside invert on the bottom of the course, and I'm psyched with this shot. That's about as good as inverts get. And he said it was actually the best one he'd done in about 10 years, so that was nice. And I think this event might be sponsored by Audi. I'm not sure. Maybe. I just got a feeling. This is Spencer Whiting, aka Gimbal God, and this shot was taken about half an hour, 40 minutes after he got absolutely smoked trying to follow Seve de Buck over the launch pad. It was, he just dropped out of the sky. That was definitely not a bail. That was a slam. And I think you can tell that he's not totally all there behind the eyes. Unfortunately, he left, I think, the following day. So he only filmed, literally half a session before getting taken out, which was a shame. Would have been sick to see some more from him, so maybe next time. This is Terrier again. I've made it my primary mission at this event to take portraits of everybody. And I did. I took portraits of every single person I encountered. Sometimes I photographed people twice because they were wearing different outfits and I didn't realise it. And I was shooting with a strong flash at all times. I really liked the look of brightly lit portraits, even in direct sunlight. I just find it kind of funny. And I shot this one of Terrier and he blinked and I absolutely love it. Couldn't have turned out better. This is Yuka Fujimori doing a savage frontside 3 stalefish. Yuka has the most amazing style, and if you didn't know already, she was an Olympic level racer. She went to 4 different Olympics, I think, and when she was about 28, she just kind of decided she was over it and went against the advice of everybody she knew and just started focusing on freestyle and has been crushing it non-stop ever since. If you haven't seen it already, you can check out Yuka's 5 Things feature in the latest volume of Method Mag for a little more insight into this badass lady. She also recently got married to Henry Jackson, so congratulations to the two of them, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson Fujimori, or Fuji Jackson. I don't know what to call them, but they're a great couple. Same jump, same angle. That's Annika Morgan, doing a pretty mean corked front 3. Annika had never been to Nines before, and she was pretty hyped to be there. She's really been crushing it lately in pretty much everything she's been doing. So yeah, that was cool to shoot with her for a bit. This is Renee Renekungas, recent X Games Real Snow winner, and this was shot during a really good session on the bottom section of the course. Now unfortunately these lower features don't really get ridden that much, but it was a complete whiteout and that just facilitated a really good session. Everyone was just hiking it together and trying to figure out how to ride it. And I wanted to shoot a hand plant with Renee, but he kind of got into a battle with another trick, and by the time he was done with it he was just cooked. So we didn't get the hand plant, but we got this one at the start of the session, which I'm still pretty stoked with. And yeah, that's him afterwards. I thought this was quite interesting. The corner of one of the kickers had frozen into this really sharp edge, like a knife blade. You know, you could cut vegetables with it if you want, or cut yourself if you fell against it by mistake. I guess it had just been in the sun much more on one side than the other, and then, you know, science had sort of frozen it like that. Yeah. I have no idea what Audi electric yoga is, and by the looks of things, neither does Storley. This is Red Bull's newest athlete, Jerome Tanon. He's not, but he's still a delightful human being. And he'd come over from France to shoot for his new all-female project, which is called Heroes. He's been working on it for the last 2 years, and from what I've seen of it, it should be pretty amazing. And hopefully he'll send some over to us so we can run a print feature on it in the next volume of Method. No pressure, Jerome. He also knows a lot about ants, and he kindly contributed to our wildlife corner in the last volume of Method, which you should definitely check out if you haven't seen it already. And for all the ladies out there, he's also single and looking for love, so hit him up. That's Renee again. We told him that if we ever did a nude calendar for Method, he could be Miss January, and this would be his pose. This is Mons Roisland and his fantastic outfit. Apparently his binding sponsor had asked if he wanted matching bindings, but he decided against it. This is Sven Torgren, doing one of the biggest backside 180s I've ever seen. I just couldn't resist doing a couple of shots like this. I mean, look at it. It's mad. Sven again, double backside rodeo, insane. I like his little shadow on the kicker. I think this is gnarly enough that you can get away with having a GoPro stuck on your head. This was a fairly familiar sight throughout the week. The weather changing every 5 minutes. It's not necessarily the most exciting image, but you only see the good weather days in the recap clips, and this stuff happens as well. So I thought I should at least mention it. And I'm English, so I have to say at least one thing about the weather. We were at dinner one evening and Henry Jackson took my camera and said he was going to go and take a picture of something interesting. And he came back with this picture of himself. If you didn't already know, Henry is perhaps the greatest hype man on earth. And he's also an incredibly generous human being. And he's got a pretty mean hand plant too. There's a fancy dinner one evening where all the big partners come and everyone dresses up smart. And they had this little barbecue going outside, and they were cooking these tiny burgers. And I didn't think they'd fill me up very much, so I asked them for 5. Well, they only gave me 2, and actually 2 is enough, and they were really good. And if you're wondering why I'm talking about burgers instead of snowboarding, well, this is my slideshow, so I'll talk about whatever I want. Starley with a flower, looking beautiful. Jan Scherer with a flower, also looking beautiful. This is Jan doing a switch McTwist. It's kind of a tough trick unless you're going about 50 feet in the air to shoot from this angle to get a good single frame of it. So I made it into this little sequence GIF sort of thing. I really like doing stuff like this, kind of a middle ground between photo and video. It's just a nice way just to kind of mess around, put a random track over it, and I don't know, snowboarding can be very satisfying to watch, and for me, this is very satisfying to watch. This is Raibu Katayama cranking an indie out of the quarter pipe. And there was some controversy about whether you could technically call this a quarter pipe because it had this sort of banked landing that was higher than the takeoff. Personally, I don't give a shit. If I get to watch people blasting airs this high, you can call it the Falcon Tires Super Ultra Mega Jump if you want, and I'll be fine with it. And if having a slightly banked landing means these guys can push it higher and higher, by all means, go for it. I'm not trying to undervalue what people have done on straight quarter pipes before, but my primary interest in snowboarding is based on style, and for me, this is just pure fucking style. This is the last action photograph that I have to show you, and I don't have too much to say about it, really. It's Dolly Sandbeck, and it's a sick method. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. Hope I didn't put you to sleep. Method forever. Peace.